Hello BookTube, welcome back. This video is going to be the mystery book tag video, and it was originally created by Marissa Reads a Lot. I'll be posting the original video down below. It's a pretty cool video. She's a pretty cool booktuber. I'd recommend checking her out. And basically what this is starts off, you give your favorite mystery book, preferably with a murder in it, and then using characters and worlds from your favorite books, you create kind of your own storyline for a murder mystery. So starting off, my favorite mystery book is The Oath by Frank Peretti. I've never heard anyone on BookTube talking about Frank Peretti before, and that might be due to the fact that he is a Christian author, but he's not like a preacher. Well, I guess technically a couple of his books very much deal with Christianity and Christian themes, so it might turn some people off. The Oath really isn't one of those books, though. The Oath is about, the story starts focusing on this guy, and you find out that his brother has just been killed. It has been reported that it was a bear attack, and this guy is kind of an outdoorsy person. He starts looking into his brother's death and is not quite convinced that it was a bear attack that killed him. And he starts kind of looking into what his brother had been up to the past few months, and found out that his brother had been visiting this really small town kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And there's rumors that he was having an affair with head honcho of this small town, this guy's wife. And so this guy starts looking into it, trying to figure out what actually happened. He kind of suspects foul play. But it's like a very typical small town in the fact that no one likes strangers, so no one's willing to talk to him. But he starts kind of slowly piecing together this legend that this head honcho in this town, his family, has basically run this town for generations upon generations. And there's a rumor that his family, and him and his family before him, controls this beast, and that this beast does their bidding, and that basically if you cross this guy, you die. So naturally the main character starts trying to dig into it. It's a very good book. I wouldn't call it a fantasy book, but there's enough fantasy aspect in there that I think a lot of booktubers would enjoy it. I would very highly recommend it. It's just an excellent book. It is probably my favorite standalone novel of all time, so it was a pretty easy choice. So now it comes time for me to create my own murder mystery scenario. So the first thing you have to do, the first out of 5 questions, is to pick which character you would want to die. This was a pretty easy one for me. This is easily the most hated character I've ever read about. Professor Umbridge from Harry Potter. I definitely think the strength of the Harry Potter series was the characters. Umbridge is a character that I couldn't believe how much I hated. In most books, even the villain, I still end up relating to somehow, or at least understanding, and maybe that should scare people, maybe I should be locked up, I don't know, but I always end up somehow empathizing with them, at least on a small scale. Like, for example, in the Harry Potter series, Lord Voldemort, you understand that he had a rough childhood, and while I obviously don't think he had a right to carry it as far as he did, I understand where he's coming from in a lot of his pain and frustration. Umbridge, I don't get it at all. She's such an evil, manipulative bitch that I wish more than anything, like, in my opinion, if Rowling had killed Umbridge and left Voldemort alive, it would have been okay, because at least Umbridge would have been dead. So yes, in this scenario, since I'm controlling it, Umbridge is getting hacked off right away. There's no one else really that I would want to die off more than her. That was the first question. Second question is, which world would you want this murder to take place in? I'm going to pick kind of probably an odd off-the-wall one. I'm going to pick in the world of the Forever War by Joe Haldeman, which is actually just planet Earth in the future. But in the Forever War, they basically learn space travel. And it's following one guy's encounter through the first kind of interstellar war, I guess. And so they discovered space travel. And he kind of goes into the details of how they discovered it and how it works. But basically, when you leave Earth and you travel, you age at a constant rate. It's basically based off Einstein's theory of relativity. But time on Earth goes by at a lot faster rate. So in this, the book, The Forever War, follows one guy's kind of path through this war, and he periodically returns and visits Earth. And the first time, like, only 50 years has gone by, but then the next time there's been a couple hundred years, and then a few hundred years after that. So I think it would be very interesting to have Umbridge die, then to have the killer pursued through space, and then ending up back on Earth, both the killer and the people chasing him, but have it be at Earth several hundred years into the future. I think it'd be very interesting to have someone running from the law, basically, in a world that's completely unfamiliar, yet at the same time the exact same world they left. It just seemed like a really fun concept to me. That's the one I picked. Question number 3 is who your lead detective would be. This might be a pretty typical answer, but I'm going to go with Sherlock Holmes from any of the Sherlock novels. Maybe this is also just because I've recently read 3 of the Sherlock books, but he's a pretty brilliant detective. He's definitely a flawed individual. I couldn't think of any other characters that I thought would be a lot better than him. The 4th question is who would his sidekick be? And I'm pretty sure the whole point of this book tag is for you to use different books in different series and kind of spread out. But I'm going to use 2 characters from the same story. So my like assistant detective or sidekick to Sherlock is actually going to be another character from the Harry Potter series. I, however, am not going to pick any of the main characters. I'm going to pick Neville Longbottom, which is it's a funny name, but he probably actually is my favorite character in the Harry Potter series. I love how Rowling wrote her characters. She had a fairly big group of main characters, but she also had just an incredibly wide, diverse group of supporting characters. And Neville is just perfectly genius. I love how you see him grow up. In the first series, he's kind of this stuttering, shy, very awkward kid. And you see him growing up. You kind of see him growing into who he is. You see him accepting some of the things about him that are very painful in his past. And you kind of see him becoming comfortable with himself. And one of the things that I don't like about the Sherlock series is I think Watson has a pretty weak personality, and I understand why Doyle wrote it that way, because Sherlock has such a strong personality, he would have butted heads with another strong personality. But because Watson is just basically a fanboy that follows him around, I never felt like in the books that I read that Sherlock was really pushed. I don't think he had anyone challenging him. And I think he just basically coasted through. Yes, he was brilliant. Yes, he was really smart. Yes, he could solve all these cases. But I don't think he ever really had anyone pushing him. I think Neville would do that as a sidekick. I think Neville wouldn't really be that impressed with Sherlock. He wouldn't carry it to the kind of the fanboy worship that Watson did. Neville would just kind of keep very much focused on the case, and I think he would really work to push Watson. To push Sherlock. I also think he would really learn a lot from Sherlock. I think it would be a very good pairing. Like I said, I think you would see Sherlock pushed out of his comfort zone a little bit, which would be good for him. I also think that Neville, you would continue to see his character just grow up and mature and become even more awesome than he already is. So question number 5 is who would the killer be in your scenario? And mine was pretty easy once I started thinking about it. My killer would be Brom from the Inheritance Cycle. Brom is an amazing character. He's really one that I cannot wait for Christopher Paolini to go back and write more about. And I think he would make a very good killer in the fact that if you read the series, Brom is a complete badass. He's probably one of the biggest badasses of all time. But he's also very smart, and he's very controlled. And I think he would see someone like Umbridge and have no problem killing her. And I think he would also go about it in such a smart way that even someone as brilliant as Sherlock would have a hard time catching him. So I think the real fun thing, even though I would hate to see Brom ever caught for something like killing Umbridge, because there's really, in my opinion, no crime in something like that. But I think Sherlock and Neville would have a very hard time hunting down Brom. I think he's very wily. I think he would even be able to outsmart Sherlock. Or at least I have more respect for Brom's intelligence than I do Sherlock's. I think it would be a fascinating story. But yeah, so that was my mystery book tag. Again, I'm posting the original video down below. You should definitely check it out. If you see any blaring mistakes or glaring mistakes, feel free to point them out to me. If you think I did an awesome job, feel free to applaud me on that. But yeah, I will see y'all next time, and I hope y'all have a great whatever.